Welcome to the Cinefied Podcast, the show where we enlighten you on what film to watch next by breaking it down so you can decide if you should watch any film that we see in theaters or just wait for it to be streaming or just ignore it as, this film will have mixed opinions across the group and online and all over. So I'm Connor Petrie. I'm from Cinefied. Along with me is Kyle Wolf and John Odette. Today we are talking Tron Ares, third entry, trying to make Tron a thing, and giving Jared Leto yet another try at Blockbuster. And we kind of see how this box office is going. So I don't know how many times they can try that. The Tron Ares synopsis goes as follows. A highly sophisticated program, Ares, is sent from the digital world into the real world on a dangerous mission. That's the bare bones premise, and that's what you can expect from this film. So you can check out my full review on Cinefied.com. In the review, I state the story isn't anything special. It's campy, it's retro, it's Tron. But we come to this place for the visuals first, and we come to this place for the good versus evil plot that is just infinite levels of nostalgia. The 9 Inch Nails score is just an added bonus. Before we get into our spoiler-free thoughts, which we'll quickly dive into spoiler, but let's go ahead and dive into our popcorn rating. Our popcorn ratings are full for a must-see, a half for a maybe, and an empty for a mistake. I'm going to go ahead and not jump in. I'm going to actually let Kyle go first. Kyle, what popcorn rating would you give this without our discussion?
Spilled popcorn.
Spilled popcorn. All right, and John?
Sadly, I'm going to also give it a spilled popcorn as well.
Wow. All right. So my review excerpt might seem positive. I give it a half on the site, and I'm still giving it a half here. Let's see if you guys can make me lower my score. But I just feel like this film, let's start with the visuals. Okay. The visuals to me, actually, let's start with our history with the franchise. John, are you like a big Tron head, or is this like a franchise you're not overly familiar with and you dove into this? Like, where are you at with the franchise?
So I'm not a Tron head in that respect, but I have seen all three films, and I think each film fits especially the first film is a good time capsule for when it was released. And in the early 80s for those kind of effects, which they do seem very dated to 2025 standards, but I think for the time they were right. And even 2010's Tron Legacy, I had some problems with that film, but I overall enjoyed myself. So I know enough of the lore with Flynn and the creation of Tron and the grid, but I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not really in on this franchise, like a devotee, but I'm not completely unfamiliar walking in for the first time either.
And would you say that you were like hyped to see this film, or when this film was like announced, like were you anticipating it, or was anything involving this film before actually watching it, were you excited to see it? Was there any aspect?
I was excited to see if they could deliver once again on the visuals and the score, like a Tron Legacy did, because I thought, that was also, I believe, an infinitely better narrative film. What also pushed that film and Tron Ares was the visuals, of course, and the score. Last time it was Daft Punk, and now we have 9 Inch Nails. So I saw that in the trailer. I'm like, that's interesting. The trailer itself didn't really jazz me up all that much. I mean, Jared Leto, there's plenty of reasons to not be kind toward him. But he is a good actor, and I liked most of the cast that I could see. And so I was like, it might be worth the shake. I may be wrong. I've been wrong. I looked at a trailer, thought a movie was going to fall flat, and it ended up surprising me. So this was a roll of the dice, and I rolled bad.
All right. And Kyle, what about you? What's your history with the Tron franchise?
Yeah, I mean, similar to John, I'm not, huge into the franchise. I wasn't super excited seeing it going in, but I thought, I liked Tron Legacy enough, and I like Jared Leto when he's good. I think he's a good actor. He's had a lot of bad movies, that being said, bad choices. But yeah, I mean, I've seen all three of them. I don't have a particular love for any of them except for Legacy. I mean, I think most people familiar with the franchise will just constantly go back to Legacy and say like the visuals are great, the score itself is pretty much better than the movie. The score. So yeah, I mean, I was optimistic, I guess, going into it. I was hoping that they could capitalize a little bit on the flaws of Legacy's narrative or script story weaknesses in that one, but yeah, this one didn't do it for me. It's very much style over substance. The score is subpar, especially compared to Legacy. Didn't so much even feel like a Nine Inch Nails score to me. It felt more like Reznor and Ross again, which is fine. Love their work, but was kind of surprised that this is being labeled a Nine Inch Nails score. So yeah, bad, bad gamble on this one. Didn't do much for me.
All right. Yeah, I we'll dive into some of the aspects that both of you were talking about, but just my history. I just this year watched the first Tron and Legacy. I had never seen them before, and I really adore the first one. I think that it has some very dull moments in it, but I think it's just such a cool looking film. And I think that Jeff Bridges is fantastic in it. And it's just, I mean, it's just straight out of the 80s. Like it just is full of just everything you want from an 80s sci-fi film, in my opinion. I personally really adored it. But the second one, Legacy, I'd always heard good things about it. I knew the box office was not a success considering the budget. And I really enjoyed that film as well. I did think that it was a much more, as it should be, a modern kind of take on Tron. I thought that Garrett Hedlund was really good as Sam Flynn, Jeff Bridges' son. I like that whole arc with him going into the world of the grid to try to find his father. I really enjoyed the story there. And I also liked the score, but I really enjoyed the score here as well. I think this is the most bare bones plot that we've had, but I also feel like for people that have been with the series, it's really, there's no need to build the universe up anymore. I feel like it's just can be a good versus evil plot, which I understand if that bare bones plot is not enough, but I think that it works here. As someone that really enjoyed the first two and going to this, I think it's a good finisher. I just watched Red Letter Media's take on this, and they kind of said the same thing, where they believe that this is just, the story's not good, but it's just kind of, if you're familiar, or even if you're not familiar, it's just a simple good versus evil plot. So, I mean, I personally, my gripe with the film, besides the plot, is I think that the visuals here are a little bit more grimy and dark when they're in the world of the grid. I think that they don't really, I think when they're in the real world, I really like the visuals of like the contrast of the light cycles and the real world and all that. But I thought like within the realm of the grid, I thought it kind of looked pretty bland. I don't know if you guys felt that way, especially in contrast with Legacy, where it was just like the visuals. I mean, obviously that film for the majority of the film takes place in the grid, and this film for the majority takes place outside the grid. But I definitely, and maybe it's the red versus the blue that was so heavy in the first two. I don't know, but that was definitely my biggest thing. And yeah, my other gripe we'll get into in a little bit. But how did you guys feel about the visuals overall, Kyle?
Yeah, I'm wondering if it was a mistake to feature so much of this movie outside of the grid, but I mean, you're right. Even when we finally get into the grid, which I think is a good ways into the movie, when we're not in spoilers yet, so I don't know. It's a good
No, we
ways.
we can we can dive into spoilers. This is
Okay.
your spoiler warning, everybody. This is just really a film that is very bare bones. We all didn't love it, so go in, figure it out on your own if you enjoy it or not. But from here on, we're gonna go into spoilers. So go ahead, Kyle.
Like you get bits of the grid when Ares is kind of coming into play and shortly after, but really when um was it Eve, the main
Yes,
character,
yeah,
the
Eve,
girl,
played
when
by
she
Greta
gets
Lee from, which is crazy that you have two Academy nominated. Well, he won, but you got Academy affiliated people, playing these kinds of roles. Greta Lee and Jared Leto. But yeah, go on,
right,
Kyle.
right, and they're very like two-dimensional at best roles. Was the surprise of that, I would say. So yeah, when she gets loaded into the grid, and that comes and goes pretty quick. That's when you're mostly in the grid, and yeah, it's very dark, a lot of red and just darkness, which I didn't necessarily mind, but the visuals weren't great there, and then they're not that great in the real world either. So visually, this film didn't do much for me. I just felt like we were seeing a lot of what we've already seen, and um, visuals have come a long way now, so there wasn't anything that blew me away about it visually either.
Okay, John, what about you? How did these visuals compare to the other two?
I think we were well overall. The whole film does look good. It was very well made. Technically, it's very satisfying. It's a good sci-fi thrill ride looking film, minus all of the thrills per se. But what I to kind of touch on Kyle's point a little bit, because there's multiple grids. There's a Dillinger grid, which is like the bad guy grid. The Ares keeps going back, shuttling back and forth
Yeah.
from, and then there's the grid from Flynn that we do stop in for a little bit with, and I guess what disappointed me, it is a visually appealing film, and there's a lot of stuff on the screen. Um, it wasn't as captivating. Like I felt like with the first Tron film and with Legacy, there's a sense of wonder and intrigue into going into these worlds. And when you have this cross pollination of Ares and Athena, all these other crafts coming over, like it felt like a generic shoot 'em up almost. It wasn't engaging, wasn't exciting. So it looked pretty, but it didn't touch. It didn't make me feel anything. Whereas, even when Garrett Hedlund went into the grid at the very beginning of Tron Legacy, and he gets thrown into the games, I'm like, oh, okay. You kind of are on that ride with him, and I didn't get that type of feeling in Tron Ares because we kept kind of hopping back and forth so often it kind of lost its appeal. So they sadly that and the score, both of which are not as strong as Tron Legacy's output, were the strongest parts of these films, and even they kind of fell short for me. So this is where I'm sitting at with the visuals.
Okay, and just out of curiosity, how did you guys see this in standard screenings, 3D, IMAX? Kyle or John?
I just saw it in
Standard.
Standard as well.
Okay, I saw it at the RPX, the 3D. So I thought the sound, the score, I think really jumped out, and I thought the neons was really cool with the 3D factor. That's one thing with Disney. I think they probably thanks to just James Cameron, I guess. The visuals usually with Disney properties pop, and they're like the only studio that still does 3D. So,
do you guys think that it was a mistake? Kind of bringing my point back, but do you guys think it was a mistake to do as much in the real world versus keep it in the grid? Because I feel like people could argue, with the first two films spending so much time in the grid, it was them trying to do like something different or like a change of pace, which I think you could have ultimately got on board for, but it just felt like anytime some sort of thrill or steam was building, it just got cut by, either constantly changing from the grid to the Dillinger grid and the real world, or just there's so much in this movie that is just showing you like screens or like inputs, and it's monotonous. It gets to a point where it's just I think 15 minutes of this movie could have been cut just by showing less of that. So do you guys think it was a mistake or what?
I do. I think that it was a mistake to spend so much time in the real world because listen, like we're here to see the grid. This is Tron. We're here to see like if I want to see the real world, I'll look at anything else. This is a cyberpunk franchise. Show me the cyberpunk. The only really thrilling sequence I felt was that chase sequence early on with Athena and Ares chasing her on the bikes, and and that was kind of ended kind of flatly because you knew they were going to get timed out and have to get sent back. But like everything else, like I have a hard time remembering what happened because it was so bland. And like that's not me being cheeky and being snarky. Like I was bored in a lot of this film. Like when especially what could have been a very interesting sequence was when they're up in the tower getting ready to send Ares into the old grid and Athena's coming to get in the building. I was like, just get to it. Like, let's go. Like, what are we waiting for? And that was a big frustration of mine. Like, the 15 minutes, Kyle, they could have trimmed so much fat off of this film. Would not have helped the story because there is no real story here, but it would have helped the pacing and the deliberation and the motivation, and spend more time with like the grid atmosphere. Like we like the problem with this film, and I'm kind of sidestepping a little bit, but I'll bring it back on track in a second. The problem with this film is this is Disney's fault because they're why this film falls flat is it's not a cohesive singular story. It's set up for a feature story. So we're paying all this money for breadcrumbs instead of an actual satisfying film because they're more interested in the bottom line 5 years from now. And this is a $180 million film. They're not going to make this back up. And I think it's because audiences are now finally wising up to like, okay, what's coming next? Okay, there's no satisfying conclusion here. And it's all just like kicking the can down the road. And so, like, if I'm going to see a Tron film, show me Tron. It's like, that's a big problem I had with some of the later Matrix films is like we spent so much time in the real world in Zion. I'm like, which is fine to a point because it did help have some plot, requirements. But like most of it, like what we fell in love with the Matrix for was Neo jumping off shit and going crazy and breaking the rules of physics and stuff. And Blade Runner the same way. And Tron's just like I appreciate that they wanted to do something different, but bad call. Bad call.
See, I differ with you as far as the feeling like they're purely made this film to open it up for sequels. Of course, they have their mid-credits scene and they have that open possibility, but I mean, it's just a very simple good versus evil corporation that is good versus bad corporation. And in the end, the good corporation wins, and they're using this AI technology not for bad but for good, as Greta Lee or whoever says at one point that it's or actually I think it was Evan Peters saying like instead of stopping, there's no stopping it because it's already here. It's just a matter of whose hands it gets in or something of that nature. And so I think in the end you see that it got into the right hands. They're using it to benefit the world versus what AI can do. And then in the end, Jared Leto got his goal of just basically being, as one of them says, I think Evan Peters again, that he wants to be a real boy, and so he can now just live in the grid. I think it's a solo film. I think that I do strongly feel like they needed to have. I get in a sense what you're saying about trimming, but I think they could have trimmed and replaced that with more characterization about Jared Leto and his kind of like training or missions or something, because there's like really no evolution. It's just like a quick montage of him training and becoming a badass AI person, and then or the master commander or whatever they're calling him, and then he just is all of a sudden he sees a document or footage of her being, talking about AI being beneficial and stuff, and all of a sudden he's changed from a ruthless killer to now with a heart of gold, So I wish there was like more like behind that. And I think that the film, I think it works with the length it is, but I mean, you could definitely change some stuff out and better flesh out these characters, especially the human characters. There's really no AI characters really besides Safina and Jared Leto, because as I Go ahead.
Gillian
Anderson's character could have been cut completely.
It was such a waste for her. I'm glad. I was waiting for someone to bring that up. I just felt, I'm like, I love seeing her get movie roles and whatnot because she's so talented. And she was just completely wasted in this. And then Evan Peters is a cartoony, one-dimensional villain. You have no real much story background for him being the way he is, other than what they clumsily introduce in the beginning of the movie. The opening 20 minutes or so of this movie is rough, in my opinion.
Well, he's ultimately a villain because his grandfather, like all of his grandfather's property and everything was basically turned over in the end when Kevin Flynn reveals that like their company, Dillinger Systems, stole his intellectual property and whatnot. So it basically spoiled his name. So that's kind of like why he doesn't like that company because in my eyes. But what's interesting, I was going to bring it up, is that is it Gillian or Gillian Anderson?
Let's just go with Gillian. I'm not sure.
It's Gillian.
All right.
Okay.
So Gillian is like, her character is the sister of Cillian Murphy from the second film.
Really?
And he's American, has an American accent in the second film. She's very British in this film. And then Evan Peters is also has an American accent. And then their dad, who was the original Dillinger, who stole the code from Kevin Flynn in the first film, is very British. So just randomly, Cillian Murphy is an American when he's not American in real life. So it makes no sense. So
a lot of this film doesn't make sense, Connor.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the physics, this film doesn't even like obey its own physics. It was so just wacky, and like I wanted to like shut my brain off and just like, dude, just enjoy the visuals, enjoy the score from Nine Inch Nails and that, but like some of it was so unbelievable, and not just the physics and the science fiction of it all. Like I wanted to suspend my belief on so much, but I just really couldn't. And then even a character beat that I was like, I actually did like a head turn in the theater was when right before Jared Leto gets sent back and Greta Lee gives him that empathic response, and it, like completely reprograms him. Now he's gonna go rogue and do his own damn thing. Like that was so weak. I'm so sorry. That was just that's lazy writing. That was so bad.
It was lazy. See, I maybe I missed it, but I thought it was like when he saw the Frankenstein quote is kind of what sparked it for him, or at least was the final thing that he saw at the very least, that kind of made him
Yeah, like,
go a
and
different way.
I get these AI, and he's super empowered with all these,
But that's so
speech,
lazy too. I'm
but
so sick of
it's like, yeah, it's just like, well, we need to move this movie along.
AI is really prevalent right now. It's an easy explanation for. I just it seems like a cop out. It's just lazy.
Do you think that let's just say we kept the same script? Do you think that putting another director here would have helped the script, or do you think it solely comes down to the way it was written?
I look, sorry. I just I almost hate that we're talking about this movie, or really just this franchise, where you can be like, at least just enjoy the visuals and the score, like, because the movie needs so much more than that. I'm not going into the theater to watch something that's essentially a special effects reel.
A music
I want
video.
something more. Yeah, I want to feel something, just like John was saying earlier with some of the other films. Like, give me some excitement. I want to feel something. I just don't want to look at pretty things with a semi decent score.
So, but do you think with the core script that was given, do you think, because that script was written by the same guy that directed this, like, do you think that, like, if you basically had this, I'm pretty sure if you had the same script and you put whatever his name is that did Top Gun and did F1,
Kaczynski?
Yeah,
Joseph Kaczynski?
if you got him back, do you think he could have upped the script, or upped like what was in the script through? I mean, because let's be honest. I mean, I'll be honest. F1 is one of my favorite films of the year, but F1 is bare bones film. Like, as far as script, it's just, and so this is also bare bones, I think. And it's obviously, you got very different. Like, F1 is like very real. Same with Top Gun, very real. But he's able to push the kind of emotions out of the characters
Through the visuals.
Yeah. So do you
Okay.
think that if you had another director here, that it would have been better, or do you think it still would have been just as much of a waste as you guys are taking it as?
I think it had a better chance. I don't know how much more of an it would have been more of an improvement, but I don't know how much that would have swayed me on what I left with, with my thoughts and feelings and everything.
I don't think Joseph Kosinski, had he helmed this one too, it would have made too much of a difference. I'm just being straight up. I don't think, like, Kubrick, Spielberg, name a director. Because at the end of the day, it's some of the worst dialogue. And, like, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. Again, I'm really not. But I was, like, listening to this movie, listening to these words. I'm like, this movie's been in production for 10 years, production hell, trying to get made. And this is what cleared the board. This dialogue, these effects. The effects were actually the strongest part. But this story, like this, it, again, back to my point from earlier, like I was trying to say, is that's why this film feels like it can get away with these shortcomings, is because, we're going to push you into the next story. Because we're 15 years removed from Tron Legacy. We're 43 years removed from the very first Tron film. Like, these are generational movies at this point. So a lot of eyeballs seeing Tron Ares likely have not seen Tron Legacy, and definitely probably hadn't seen the first Tron. So they're like, well, we got to world build again. Even though those first two Tron films are on Disney Plus right now, ready to go, a lot of people just don't want to go back and see old films. They just, for whatever reason. And Tron Legacy is not an old film, but it's not recent. Garrett Hedlund, where'd he go? He's not a superstar. The only top name that left that film is Joseph Kosinski, the director. He's making great films. He's a great director. Like, he's doing great things. I don't think this script, as undercooked as it is, could have been saved by another filmmaker. I think it needed a solid rewrite, solid polish, and they had the time to do it. And they had this huge budget. Disney's gonna fuck around and find out that they keep swing for the fences, throwing money at things. They're gonna get bit in the ass because this is not gonna make. It's not gonna clear 200 million globally. It probably needs to make 250 globally to turn a profit. It's not gonna do that. And then what is Disney gonna do? They're gonna point the finger at us, the audience. This is your fault. I guarantee it.
I just want to say on what John is saying. I know exactly. I totally agree with what you're saying. So this is the third film, and Tron Legacy does very much like Tron Ares does very much what Tron Legacy essentially does, where it's like kind of catching you up on the story and then like, you know, is like rebooting it essentially. This one's pretty much okay. It's been a while. Like, let's do a quick tidbit here in the opening. Again, really rough. Of, you know, here's a throwaway line about what happened with Garrett Hedlund's Kevin Flynn, or the son of Flynn.
Sam.
Yeah, sorry. And you know, forget all that, but you know, we're rebooting it. This is a different story. We're, you know, kicking it down this way. And then we kind of should talk about the mid-credit thing, because I'm not even sure what that's supposed to do.
Well, I mean, yeah. But first, first thing I want to kind of go into before we get into the mid credits thing is, do you guys feel like Jeff Bridges needed to be here at all? Because I feel like I'll let you guys go. Go ahead, Kyle or John.
Yeah, no, I think it's just another thing where it's like, well, you know, this is a reboot, cool. So we got to have, you know, this thread connected to the original film. Let's, you know, we got to have at least Jeff Bridges do a scene or two. Let's just bring him back. And it wasn't bad, but it just felt unnecessary. I mean, I didn't hate it, but it didn't do anything for me.
Yeah, kind of what Kyle was saying. It's look, we all love Jeff Bridges. Happy to see him. This is undoubtedly a very easy, quick paycheck for the man to make. Can't blame him. But like, again, I'm gonna be that guy. To my point, why this movie is of lower quality than Tron and Tron Legacy is that Jeff Bridges in that first film, very simple story. To your point, Connor, very simple, there and back. It's a black and white case of guy goes into the grid to go get his shit back. Simple. And that's it. End of story. Second story. Dude goes to go get his dad, who's got lost in the shit in the grid, and bring him back. He does not, spoiler alert, but also because he does not, that kind of puts the cap on his character, on Jeff Bridges' character, Flynn. And so to bring him back now, like they did dialogue it away, like why he was there. He wasn't really there. It was just like, you know,
he's just part of the program.
He's like, you know, like it's like a Matrix kind of like program, and it's a way to shoehorn him in. Like I get why he's in there, like you know, why the studio's like, we got to get Jeff Bridges in here because that really ties the thread of the whole thing. But like, dude, let him go. It's over with. And I like the opening exposition dump catch up part more than Kyle did. I thought it was a good way to kind of rebrief people back up to what they might have missed, or to newcomers what happened before. But like that was enough, I felt, to honor that character. Like there's 2 films with him you can go back and look at. If you're curious, he's back there.
Mm-hmm.
So like, again, it could have been cut. I think because this whole film is predicated upon MacGuffin. We got to go get the thing. The thing is this. What's it called?
I don't remember. It's something like
Permanence.
basically a permanent code.
Permanence thing. And like we had to go get the thing. And I think they went to go get the thing, and that's it. That would have been satisfying, but they just went too far with it. And they again, we're trying to world build in, and then take the world out into the real world instead of like building up Tron, or not Tron. Tron's a character or program, but like the grid. The spirit of Tron is the grid and his visuals, and Jeff Bridges, his appearance neither adds or subtracts to that. It just padded the runtime.
It feels like it's to bring back the point of what we were talking about, how it just feels like we're doing the same thing that Legacy had to do, because it's picking up so long after the original film, and this is picking up, like you said, 11 years after Legacy. So it's like we're doing a Jeff Bridges baton handoff for the second time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you I talked to Kyle about it as soon as I got out of the screening, but I don't know how familiar you are, John, with like either the Star Wars games that recently came out on PS5 or PS4, and then Shameless, Cameron Monaghan. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah. He was he played the Jedi Knight, not Jedi
Mm-hmm.
Outcast, Fallen Order.
Yes. He was the main character. Yeah. He's in Shameless for Survivor seasons.
Yeah, like he showed up for like he was there for what, 5 seconds?
Yeah, he was there for 5 seconds, but he's like, in the opening credits.
I know. I saw his name.
Yeah,
and I was like, and I literally said out loud in the theater, "Oh, it's Cameron."
Mm-hmm.
Like I knew he was going to show up. I had no idea in what context he would appear. I'm like, "Oh, cool, Cameron's here," and then, bye, Cameron. That's it. I'm like, what the hell, man?
It makes me wonder. They never say his character name, so I'm like wondering if maybe like he was a bigger part of the film and he got cut. I've looked up on Google, and there's really everybody's thinking that was the case, that this was a longer film and that his role got cut out. I mean, really, only Cameron and the people behind the film can say that what happened, or maybe he's like their Tron. Maybe he's the Tron character, but because it is weird that the first two have Tron, and this one doesn't even try to introduce Tron. Like, people that don't know the world of Tron, you could get by with the introduction, like little, here's what happened in the last two movies, at the beginning, but there's no knowledge. There's not a mention of Tron in this film, I don't think.
To be honest, I totally even forgot about that. That's kind of embarrassing, but I didn't even think about that when I was watching this movie, that there's no Tron character in this.
So Caius is the name of Cameron Monaghan's character, and again,
like there Athena,
goes that. Like Ares, god of war, Athena, I forget what she's the god of. Caius is from the earth, meaning it's from the Greek. And so it's, connection to nature. And I mean, that's just, I think all of like Ares and all his little disciples with him all had like those Greek names to,
Yeah, it was the Ares program. It's like every part of it is, I guess, Greek mythology or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we saw other soldiers like in that raid to get the file. Like, we saw other soldiers, but they all were all masked up. And then this is the only one that we saw was Cameron. And then he plays it's just like, is he going to come back? And then it's just awkward Evan Peters being like, no. So,
he's just,
he was in the cameo. Like, he got pretty high billing for a cameo appearance.
Yeah.
And I think also, I also was thinking about that, to your point, Connor. Like, if this was like a 2-hour, 25-minute film, there probably would have been a more, and I think, I would have sat through another 20 minutes if they gave us some life and some breath into Ares and his cronies, like who they were, what they represented, because they seemed important. I guess not that important, and I could be talking out of my ass, but like, just to have some more like make me give a shit why they want to go out into the real world. Like, what's the point of that? Like, I don't even get what's the point of why leave the grid to come out to the real world and do what? Like Jared Leto turned into Kane from Kung Fu to go walk the earth. Like fucking, I didn't care. Like
they just wanted to beat Jumanji to the punch because, you got the next Jumanji film doing this exact same thing, basically remaking the Robin Williams film now, of everything coming out to the real world. But as far as, yeah. So we'll go into the after credits after two more things I do want to briefly bring up. I wrote them down. One of them is as far as the another factor that I don't think works well in this film is that they don't explain to Greta Lee's character or to Evan Peters' character when he's in the after credits scene about the disc. The disc, is like a huge thing in the first two films. You lose your disc, you're dead. Basically that's your life, that's your memory, that's who you are, and that's also a weapon. So they just are showing a disc and it has no importance besides it's literally a throwing weapon.
Yeah, I think they did that kind of a speed run through all the established lore. I guess either one, for time, or two, they assumed enough people would be spun up on the lore to know I knew the significance of the disc when he loads it onto her back when she gets zapped into the Dillinger grid. But and then you're right, Connor, they didn't address it really one more time. And I was like, so I was kind of left hanging.
They even go as far as to re-educate you on what it means to be de-resed. So it is weird that they go through catching you up, or re-educating you on some of the lore and laws of the way the grid or whatever works, but not much significance paid to the disc.
And then my last thing before we go into the after credits and then we'll close out is a plot hole that I spoke to Trevor, who also writes for Cinefied, about, and he didn't really have an explanation for, and he's a huge Tron person. And in the second Tron, Garrett Hedlund's Sam Flynn gets out, Olivia Wilde, whatever her character name, gets out, and she's from Cora. She's from the grid. She gets out, but they go the same path. They use that portal thing, which is what Jared Leto and Greta Lee do, and Jared Leto is still stricken with that 29-minute time limit. But Olivia Wilde's free to ride into the sunset. She doesn't have a 29-minute limit. So it's just kind of what's up with that? Did they just completely go, she's fine?
I think it was kind of implied that Jeff Bridges' character, because he already had that codec already kind of built in because he wrote it, probably just transferred that to her when she wrote up the portal. The sky beam of the 2010s.
Yeah, I was gonna say, giant beam in the sky.
I think it was just kind of implied that he gave those permissions to her so she can exist in the real world. But, and also we're not sure if
they say that at the end, not directly, but he
has a photo of her.
Yeah, because he says something about I don't think I'm necessarily the first one or something like that.
Right. But I think also remember, because it was I'm going down to the nuts and bolts of this a little bit. I think it was the Dillinger grid were the ones truly afflicted with this really arbitrary 29-minute rule. I might have missed it, but I don't think it was really established if it was just the grid entire or just
it's the grid entire, because on the good side of thing, on Greta Lee's character's side, when she creates a tree out of her grid, it still has a 29-minute limit.
Yeah. So then I guess it was implied, I guess, when Jeff Bridges let Cora ride up at the end of the last film. That's the easy out. I don't really have a better explanation.
Or Jeff Bridges, he ultimately sacrificed himself, so maybe he basically gave his life force to her or something like that. Who knows? But I'm just glad I didn't speak about Jeff Bridges. Jeff Bridges, just because we've already gone past this. I thought his cameo. I felt he was just kind of pushed in there. I thought. As you guys have said, I love that he's in anything, and his presence is always just lights up a theater, a room, whatever. I love the guy. But yeah, he did not need to be here. That whole thing, it was visually like I thought impressive, taking it back to like the 80s, the first film style. But yeah, I just felt kind of his whole thing was a waste, just to ultimately do nothing. I don't know. So,
I mean, talk about a pacing issue too. Like, well, to your point, Connor, I did like going back to the retro visuals when Jared Leto went to his world and had the old light cycle and everything. That was like a good throwback, and I really appreciated that.
I'm not going to lie real quick. When you said the light cycle, I did think because there was some corny ass humor in this, especially with her assistant guy and then the guy that runs the company.
That was rough.
Yeah, I thought Jared Leto was, because he had a couple jokes that didn't land, but they weren't awful, like the assistant dude. So I thought he was going to do like just to himself when he's like bent over on the cycle. When he comes up, he's like, my back. Or something like that. Something stupid. It seems like something that would have been written.
Well, yeah, the humor. Again, a good rewrite, a good polish on a script would have trimmed or tweaked those lines, because I think there was good opportunities to say something funny. There's good like space and pockets that the edit built in, but they just weren't funny jokes. And I wasn't in a full theater. I had maybe about 20 people in there, and no one laughed ever. But like, as much as I was appreciating the retro look and the old visuals when Jared Leto was with the Jeff Bridges character, it kept cutting back from that to a high-paced action sequence to that, and we kept hitting the brakes, and it kept shocking me out of the movie. I'm like, oh my god, can we need to pick a lane, guys? Like, if they cut down the Jeff Bridges Jared Leto interactions, like one quick 2 to 3 minute scene. He lands, he sees him, he gets out of there, and then we have we just ramp up to the end. I think that would have been a better edit, but
no, you're right. Yeah, definitely there's a pacing issue, especially with like that kind of scene, because it's definitely throws you out of it how different they are, like drastically different, the pacing. So Kyle, after all that, let's go into the after credits. Go ahead and give us what exactly this after credits is, and go ahead and kind of like say what happens at the end to get to this after credits.
Honestly, you may want to start with someone else on this, because the after credits, you see Evan Peters' character has loaded into the grid, and he picks up his disc, which looks different than any other disc you've seen so far. I guess maybe that's because they're all supposed to be unique to each person. I don't know, but and then it shows him picking it up, and then he starts to, I don't know, get like armor and a helmet or whatever, and then that's it.
Yeah, well,
so
I guess I didn't catch that, if that is the case about him having a different disc. It just felt like a disc, but go ahead, John.
So there's a point to that. So from the very first Tron film, his grandfather's basically his muscle in the program was Sark, and that was Sark's armor that he was putting on.
Oh.
So it was, again, like, I rewatched Tron recently, and that's the only reason why I was like, oh, it's that. Okay.
I was gonna say, it's been 10 or 15 years probably since
you'd be forgiven for not remembering. Like, everyone else in the audience were like, what the fuck is happening here?
Yeah.
And so, but again, it's like, okay, what is this? Is he gonna grab the Infinity Gauntlet next? Like, come on, guys, just wrap it up. We didn't need to go there. And I don't know. I just, it didn't do anything for me. I felt like just Disney was like trying to like, just like, forget the expression, but raping and pillaging another IP to
there could be more
mass cultivate a new crop of films that because Tron's legacy is not successful financially, and the very first Tron film didn't even get any love at the Oscars because they thought at the time computer effects were cheating for visual effects. So like Tron, like God, I want to love Tron so much, and I think there's a core audience out there for Tron, but I think that's a very small number, and I think they were not done a service with this film. Again, I don't know for sure. I'm not a Tron person, but I think the end credits, like, it was fine if you're a Tron head. For everyone else, is like, what are we doing now? Well, I thought we were done.
Yeah, I mean, I did not catch like that it was the armor from the first film. I personally thought, because the film does, there are moments in this film that do like feel kind of like very dark tonally, and so I did think, because I mean, he ultimately kills, not himself, but his AI creation kills his mother, and then he's going to basically almost for sure spend the rest of his life in jail, like after however much time. So I thought when he set up the laser, he basically, because the reason why Athena like doesn't disappear is because there is no grid for her to go back to. So
right.
So I don't get where he sent himself to. Like, he rebooted like the lasers, but his grid was still non-existent. It was deleted. So I don't like. I thought he was basically committing suicide. That's what I took out of it before the after credit scene.
So as I understood it, like, yes, the good guys, they nuked the grid, the Dillinger grid, right, and it was wiped clean. And then at the 11th hour, as he was getting police knocking on his door, he rebooted that grid and sent himself to it. Because he tried to send himself there like immediately, but he couldn't. So he's like, oh shit, he had to like reboot the whole damn thing. And that's why it was so barren and empty, because it was just, as I understand, it was like a blank canvas. It was like rebuilding. So, and maybe that's what triggered the Sark armor to be generated, and now he's going to turn into his grandfather. I guess, I don't know. That was my take on it. I could be completely wrong, but that's how I remembered it.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, yeah, I like my dark ending more of him, deleting himself from reality.
You could be right.
Yeah, I don't.
Who fucking knows?
So. That doesn't seem like a Disney thing to do.
I like that better too.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think in the end, we'll go over ratings here. And I think that I'm going to stick with my half. I totally get why you guys will most likely stay with where you're at. I think that it's very understandable why the trailers never advertised this as from the director of Dead Men Tell No Tales or Maleficent 2. It's not an impressive, 2 films to, put on your trailer. I think the Nine Inch Nails advertisement was very on point. I think for me, the score lived up to it, especially in the RPX, the IMAX type setting. I think the visuals, even though I didn't find them as impressive as the last 2 films, more so the Legacy, I guess. I did think that they still were really impressive. I think the story is very simple. It's a good guy versus bad guy. I think it's a fine film, and I think that if you're really into Tron, you'll like this. I think that if you don't like Jared Leto, don't watch this film because Jared Leto he's in almost every single scene in this film. His acting is very purposely robotic, but that's just, in my opinion, his acting style. I've never been a super Jared Leto person, but you guys both said that, like, while you have opinions about his personal whatever, he is a good actor. I think that he's not really a good actor, but he won an Oscar, but bad people have won Oscars before. So I'm staying with half. John, are you going to stay with Spilled, or are you going all the way to full?
Don't fuck with me, Connor. No, this one's Spilled. It's not like Craven, the dumbass hunter, or Madam Web levels
Morbius?
Of bad. I did turn to my girlfriend a few times in this movie and go, "Is it morbid time yet?" Like I'm waiting for Mormon time, and I mean, it wasn't. I don't know. It's a spilled popcorn. I'll say that.
All right, Kyle. You are very much muted.
Sorry, I'm still getting over. Is it Morbin? Okay. It's still spilled popcorn for me. I think that you should not waste, even if you're like a Tron head or whatever, you should not waste your time and go see this in the theater. See it streaming when it comes out, probably within the next 2 months. This movie is very forgettable. I walked out of this movie, and within, I think, 30 minutes to an hour, I feel like I'd forgotten a lot. It's just so forgettable. The score didn't do much for me. The visuals, and then, like I said, I don't want to necessarily enjoy a movie strictly for score and visuals. So, and I do, like Connor said, I like Jared Leto. I think he's talented when he wants to be, especially like Dallas Buyers Club, the movie he won an Oscar for. Connor, you need to watch that movie for his performance in that if you haven't.
I have not.
Okay. And yeah, so I think skip this or wait for streaming. You're not getting, there's not much return on investment with this one. It feels very lifeless.
All right. And thank you, Kyle. Last thing I want to do before we go away and everybody can turn this off is I want to kind of, as we've all watched all three, just real quick, no explanation, like how likely would it be in the order of rewatchability? I would watch the first one more than the other two, and then the sequel, and then this one. Do you guys feel the same, or which one is your most rewatchable of the three? Kyle, go first.
I like the first one, but I do think the Tron Legacy is more rewatchable, especially in the more modern age. But so I would go Tron Legacy, Tron, and then Tron Ares.
All right, and John?
Again, I'm going to be that guy. I think the Tron is a little bit like ice cream and the different types of flavors. So it's mood dependent. Sometimes I really want to see the old original Tron because I just do like that movie a whole lot. I don't love it, but I do like it. But also, I really am a sucker for this neo-noir cyberpunk kind of visuals from Tron Legacy, and that's a lot of carryover for my love for Blade Runner 2049, I think. So you catch me on the right day, I might say one or the other. But Tron Ares, if I ever see it again, it'll be last place, definitely.
All right. And I think we can all agree that at the very least, we're thankful that they did not de-age Jeff Bridges again here. So
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So that concludes our talk and review of Tron Ares. Thanks for listening to the Cinefied Podcast. You can find more of our episodes as well as all of our written reviews, interviews, and retrospectives on cinefied.com. Be sure to follow us on Letterboxd as well as all other major social media platforms to stay up to date with our reviews. Now pop some popcorn, grab a drink, and remember, stay cinefied.